Hey there. Oops, we need some light. Let there be light. There you go. Welcome. It is so good to be here with you today. Today we are going to talk about smartphone selfies and iridology. My name is Judith Cobb. I'm a master herbalist, natural nutrition clinical practitioner, and a certified comprehensive iridology instructor. I've been a practicing iridologist for nearly 40 years. I've seen a lot of information come and go, and so today I want to share with you information about doing better photos. We need to start off with a common understanding that iridology is about understanding our inherent patterns to enable us to make choices about our health. Okay, does that make sense? We're looking at inherent patterns. So the iris of the eye teaches us what is genetically possible for the body. It doesn't teach us about things that are changing. Iridology is not about trying to change one's eye color or about promoting cleanses or about selling product. It is also not about what is going on right now in the body. The inherent potentials are what you were blessed with. What you do with those inherent potentials determines what your health is. And if you don't like your health, you're not going to do something to change your eye color. You're going to do something to improve your health. It's not going to change what you see in the irides, but it is going to change your health if you do the right things. Does that make sense? We don't do iridology to change the eye color because we now know that the eyes don't change in response to diet and supplements. You can no more change the structure or lay of the fiber in the iris or the color of your iris by taking supplements or changing your diet than you can change your fingerprint by taking supplements or changing your diet. Okay, it just doesn't happen. You don't change what you see in the eye by changing diet or taking supplements. The sclera, yes, takes time, yes, but not in the iris. The reason I teach this little workshop on photography for iridology is because when we look online, what we see is a lot of people taking photos with this, right? And posting them online, and the photos are awful. They're unreadable. There's light artifacts, there's reflections, they're out of focus, they're just really bad. And other people will have a photo that was maybe taken in an iridologist's office, and then they'll take a photo with their smartphone, or they'll take a photo with a different camera, or maybe in the iridologist's office again, but the settings on the camera are different. And they're saying, look at the change, look at the change. And that is not accurate. That's not a way to do a before and after photo, okay? So smartphones are especially suspect in this because we see this so much online and all over the place. Here are images of my eye. The one on the left of your screen was done with a smartphone. The one on the right was done with a proper iridology camera. Can you see the difference? Okay, so we've got a couple of differences that we need to talk about here. Number one, your smartphone is typically, depending on whether you're using the front-facing or the back-facing camera in it, is 8 to 12 megapixels. Okay, so that means it's not a very high resolution. And in order to use a smartphone to take an eye photo, your camera has to be, even if it's done, you know, using the more powerful lens, the camera has to be far enough away that it's trying to keep that rounded surface in focus, and you get a lot of face, you don't get much eye, and it means that when you try to blow up the photo, you're going to lose a lot of definition. You can see here that we've got a lot of light artifact. We've got a reflection of the camera right here. So if you're going to try to use a smartphone to get an iris photo, you need to have a dimly lit room. one that doesn't have a window, one that doesn't have an overhead light, so that you get the least amount of reflection possible and the least amount of light artifact possible. But in a dimly lit room, you're going to lose definition. We need good light to get good definition. When we use a proper camera, and this is, I keep this one on my desk. I actually have two different setups, but this is the one that I use the most, because this little piece goes right up against the face and it blocks out everything from the room. So we block out all the room lighting, we block out reflections, we block out the fact that I've got a big window in my office, right? And so this gets us a much cleaner picture. Some other things to remember is you can't use these two photos, for example, taken on different equipment. You can't use them as before and afters. Why would that be? That would be because the camera settings are different. This camera shoots with an LED light, and I'm still tinkering with the white balance in it because my skin is really not quite this pink. My eye is really not quite this blue, but neither is my skin this yellow and orange, and neither is my eye this green. The truth is somewhere in between. So we can't even use photography, whether it's a selfie or otherwise, as a really good assessment of color. Okay, so that's an important thing for us to be aware of. So again, if you want, and this image on the right, this camera is a 24 megapixel, right? So the definition possibility is immense. We get far greater detail by using a good quality camera with a proper macro lens and with a proper iridology lighting system. So again, if you want to try to take photos with your smartphone, and why not? Just know that it's not going to be the type of resolution that you are seeing in the image on the right. You'll never get that out of a smartphone. You need to have a room that has no windows. You need to have the lighting, if there is room light, it's got to be behind the person. It can't be above or in front because that's going to reflect in the eye. You may also need to get a pen light that has a very white light, so a medical pen light, to add light to the eye. And that's going to take another person because you're going to need someone, you got your person sitting there, you need someone here to aim the light. And then typically a good camera, a smartphone, I mean, you need two hands, right? Really hard. I can't hold my smartphone and take a picture at the same time. I don't know. I need another hand. So you might need an extra person there to hold a light and to move the light around to where you want it, and have someone shooting the phone as well. So, you know, it's not all that easy to do with a smartphone. It's possible to get a decent image, but not a great image. So this is my husband's eyes. These were my attempts on the top to get pictures with a smartphone. All right, and this is after I took the photos on my camera, on my phone. They looked great, but when I brought them into my computer to enlarge them to actually do an analysis, actually to put the slide together, they were garbage. Out of focus, badly lit, lots of light reflections, not good photos at all, not at all. So down here, this is an older camera. This was a print film, print film. This was a print film camera. That took me a moment to think through. About 25 years, 30 years old. The images are quite gorgeous, right? This is my 24 megapixel camera, which is comparatively gorgeous. Notice the difference in color. And if you know anything about photography, again, even with your expensive digital DSLRs, yeah, I'm not a photographer. What we know is that you can set the white balance. And if the white balance is not set exactly right, you're going to get a different color. So the white balance in this camera was different from the white balance setting in this camera. And like I said, I'm still playing with this one to try to get it better. And additionally, you have the issue of when it's a print situation, the developer and the film type can change it. It was well known back when I owned that camera that Fujifilm shot green. So everything was a little more to the green side, and that Kodak shot a little more red. Right? And so that can alter the results as well. So really important, if you're looking at pictures and you're thinking before and after, consider the skin tones. It would be highly irregular for someone to go from this kind of a skin tone to this kind of a skin tone. Highly irregular. So what we know with what we've learned from this is that smartphones can be used to get iris photos that are not a professional quality, but maybe sort of usable. That you need to be very aware of where the light, the ambient light, is coming from. You want it behind the person, or you want it very dim and kind of not there. You don't want any other light sources in the room that are shining right on the eyes, because that's going to lead to light artifacts that obliterate the iris. You probably need an extra light source so that you can make things pop. When you do your lighting right, you actually make features more visible. You want to just know that it's not going to be the best, right? The best is to if you want photos done, to find someone who does iridology professionally, and maybe that's you, who has a proper iridology camera. You know, there's all kinds of things online, different iris scopes of various kinds. And I've got lots of students who have experimented with those, who've purchased them, and the photos are about the same quality as what you'll get from your smartphone, because most of the iris scopes tend to be anywhere between 2 and 8 megapixels. The challenge with the iris scopes is you have no control over the lighting. Whatever the lights are set as is what you get. And so if you've got light that's in the wrong place and it's obliterating a marker that you want to see, what are you going to do with that? You can't turn the lights off. You can't play with them. Whereas a professional setup, or a good setup, this one has 2 lights in it, but I can turn one light off, or I can turn the other light off. So I can have both lights, or one light or the other light, so that I can make sure that I see everything. And I always take all 3 of those photos for many, many reasons. The other thing that kind of drives me crazy is that there's a lot of people who have some training, and I can't tell exactly what their training is from their posts, but they offer to do free iris assessments, or there are websites where some iridologists are hanging out, people are posting photos, and they are offering to do free iris assessments, or people post photos and say, tell me what's wrong with me. You know, I'm going to suggest that if you do that, if you send photos to a site like that, that you be very careful with the information you get back. This is so important. The old type of iridology that many of us did said that we could tell from your eye what was wrong with you. The constitutional iridology, on the other hand, says that we are looking at inherent potentials. So what is the difference? Well, if I was doing, I'm going to pop back a couple of slides here. If I was doing an iris assessment using this image, for instance, I would, and I was doing the old kind of iridology, I would be concerned that I would tell this person they had an issue with their liver that was affecting all kinds of other organs. I would tell them that their stomach lining was awful, that they don't digest their food at all well, that they, this is actually more orange in his eye, it's a little bit closer to this eye, that he's got pancreas problems that he really needs to be taken care of, and that he probably has blood sugar issues, and he may even have some kind of bone issues going on right now. Okay, now if I bring that into a constitutional perspective, I'm going to first ask my client, what are your symptoms? What would you like my help with? And he's going to say, I have stomach issues. And I'm going to ask him some questions. What does that mean? Because a lot of people say stomach when they mean abdominal, and then I need to isolate, is it small intestine, large intestine, or stomach, or gallbladder, right? So we need to isolate that. Then I'm going to take that information and bring it into here, and I'm going to ask him, what are you doing about it? And he's going to tell me, I'm going to suggest, well, we do have an inherent predisposition towards some stomach issues that could be the root of what's going on. Do you drink coffee? Do you drink alcohol? How much spicy food do you eat? Do you eat savory food? And then I can go ahead and with what I see in the eyes and his answers, I can then give him information that is relevant to the here and now. Bone issues, there are none. He has none. He has no symptoms of that. So for me to tell him he has a bone problem is not going to land anywhere, right? So I can work with this. I can come up into the orange colors that are up here, and I can ask him about blood sugar stability, right? Most people haven't got a clue what that means, but if he said, you know, my energy is kind of variable in the day, then that could be the stomach not digesting. It could be the pancreas not balancing the blood sugars properly. So we can follow that, but I'm not telling him what's wrong with him. I am correlating what I see in his eyes to help me understand what's actually going on in his body based on what he can report to me. Does that make sense? So that when we look at constitutional, we're not telling the client what's wrong with them, because, you know, when this fellow was younger, when my husband was younger, he didn't have these issues. Some of these issues are because he's getting older, and in part because there is a very strong inherent predisposition in his family to develop serious stomach problems as they get older. So we've really worked for that. We've stalled it off. Most people have it by the time they're 40. He didn't get it till he was 60. So we did well there, and we continue to work with that. But I couldn't tell him, you know, when we took these pictures, well, you've got a stomach problem, because he didn't. There was no stomach symptoms back then. Does that make sense? All right. And let me just see what we've got going on online here. Okay. Got to watch that Facebook page, right? Okay. So again, we don't diagnose with constitutional iridology. We never diagnose. We don't tell people to quit their medications. Oh my goodness. We don't. We don't give them, we don't fire hose them with information, which is exactly what I've seen happen with the free analyses that are done online. I've seen people doing an analysis saying, quit your meds. Oh my freaking stars, right? I see them giving these long lists of recommendations, long lists of iris markers, long lists of recommendations. How is the client ever going to know where to start with that? How will they ever know how to work with all of that? That does no good service to anybody, to give them so much information that the client just goes, whoa, I can't, what do I do with this? Right? No good, solid information. And so really important, you know, if you're going to submit photos to a free iris assessment, be careful what you're doing with the information. If you're doing a free iris assessment, please stop. Please stop. For oh so many reasons. If you can afford to do them for free, then a couple of things: you probably didn't pay for your training, and you probably aren't doing ongoing training. Got to pay those bills somehow. And doing them for free devalues what all iridologists do. If you do them for free all the time, it doesn't make you look smarter. It makes you look cheaper. Just saying. And it actually gives us all a bad name. All right, so Constitutional Iridology Certification Prep class for certification with IPA is coming up on January 15th. A little bit more information on iridology.education. Registration will be opening next week. I'm just in the final stages of getting all of the automation for the registration set up. I'm an iridologist, not a computer tech person, so it's taking longer than it should. That's okay, I'm learning much. And so it starts on January 15th, 22-hour live webinars. And so you've got a live teacher, moi, and playback on demand. Everything is recorded for playback on demand because it is 20 classes long, meeting once a week, to give you time to go and practice what you're doing in between classes. Classes will end sometime early in January. So there will be more information on that in our, hopefully, I'll have the registration up by Tuesday. That's my hope. And hopefully we will be able to give you the actual registration link on Tuesday. So with that, my friends, I don't see any chats or any comments coming in. And nothing on Facebook either. So thank you for being with me. I hope that helped you with your iridology photography. And coming up, might even be Tuesday. I should have checked the schedule. There may even be a little webinar, a little Facebook Live like this, talking about iridology cameras, genuine professional cameras. So if that's of interest to you, I hope you'll join me then. And hopefully we'll see you Tuesday at 11 a.m. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend. Bye for now.